Everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you today with an article from the Federalist. This is dated December 10th, and it says Merrick Garland is the worst Attorney General in American history. And it's a long article, so we're going to just kind of take our time with it. But do you disagree with that? I mean, we're going to go through all the stuff that he's done or hasn't done, but yeah, I'd say yeah. And again, as I've said on numerous other videos, I'm thrilled beyond belief that this man did not get on the Supreme Court. So it says, even Joe Biden, who nominated Garland, appears to have caught on to the fact that Garland's DOJ is infected with partisan corruption. And thank God for the Trump people coming in that will hopefully, clean everything out. So it says, for once, left and right agree, Merrick Garland is the worst. Yes, he is. It says, I was surprised when I first saw this article from MSNBC and CNN contributor Dean Obeidallah. Okay, that's a heck of a name. And I know who he is. I just never tried to pronounce his last name. Declaring Garland to be America's worst attorney general. Had it finally dawned on someone in our corporate press that smearing parents as domestic terrorists and prosecuting political opponents of no less stature than a president might have been a bad idea? No, it hadn't. It says the failure for which Garland deserves infamy, according to Obeidallah, was not trying hard enough to throw his boss's presidential opponent in prison. Yes, he obviously didn't try hard enough with, 4 different cases spread out amongst different states for things. Yeah, okay, sure. For that insufficient zeal, he says Garland is the biggest failure of an attorney general in our lifetimes. Say, my dude, you're completely wrong about at least not trying hard enough. He was definitely trying hard enough. Says even Joe Biden, who nominated Garland, appears to have caught on to the fact that Garland's DOJ is infected with partisan corruption. Biden accused Garland's department of having singled out certain targets for prosecution based on political reasons, and then selectively and unfairly prosecuted them and treated them differently than other defendants. It says raw politics has infected this process, Biden wrote last Sunday in a letter absolving his son of any federal crimes he might have committed over the past decade. It says, what an awkward end for Garland, after all he's done to protect the Bidens. Yeah, and I mean, why did Biden also say they were doing it for the last decade? What happened in that 10 years that he would need to be pardoned for? I thought nothing happened. It says Biden's more correct than he knows. Raw politics, indeed, has rotted the nation's highest law enforcement agency. Thanks to Garland, Americans are rapidly losing confidence in the DOJ and its shock troops in the FBI. As Garland prepares to leave his post in disgrace, it's worth revisiting the failures that actually make him America's worst attorney general. So let's go and see. He's attempting to throw his boss's presidential opponent in prison. So the behavior of Garland's DOJ in attempting to throw Donald Trump in prison while he was running for president against Garland's boss is disqualifying, but not for the reason Obeidallah claims. 1 week after Biden declared to the country that I'm making sure Trump does not become the next president again, Garland tapped Jack Smith as special counsel in charge of running 2 prosecutions against Trump, one related to his retention of documents and another related to his speech about the 2020 election. I think both of those at this point have been tossed. To Garland's bidding, Smith attempted to jail the former president for mishandling classified documents, something every U.S. presidential administration since the 1980s has done, thanks to complicated laws and the massive logistical scale of presidential records. A judge threw out the case and ruled Smith's appointment unconstitutional in July. Whoops. As in a separate case, Smith attempted to criminalize Trump's speech and even beliefs about the 2020 election. Relying in part on a federal law written to crack down on fraudulent financial record keeping and the destruction of financial records, Smith twisted Trump's comments into bizarre obstruction and conspiracy charges. Chided multiple times by the U.S. Supreme Court, Smith tucked tail and went home once Trump was elected president in November. Yeah, which means there wasn't actually anything there, so it was all political, obviously. So it says, raiding a former president's home. One of the most outrageous moments of those prosecutions was the FBI's unannounced, in quotes, I like that, the unannounced visit that CNN somehow knew was happening, but okay. So the 9-hour raid on Trump's personal home at Mar-a-Lago, in which around 30 agents who were authorized to use deadly force descended on the residence and dug through everything from Mrs. Trump's closet to the president's safe. A few days later, Garland admitted he had personally approved the raid. 2 years later, Smith's team admitted to tampering with the evidence they seized from Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, so not only was this dude an unconstitutional appointment, he's unethical as hell. And I think there were, if I remember correctly, there were some worries about that when he was put into this post, too, that he was kind of known for being a bit slimy or shady, if you will. Anyway, let's keep going. It says, covering for Biden's classified docs scandal. At the same time Smith was trying to throw Trump in prison for misuse of documents, Garland's DOJ helped Joe Biden get away with the improper retention of classified records. I was wondering if this article was going to bring this up because I actually hadn't read it yet, because it mentioned Trump being prosecuted for that by Jack Smith, and I was like, I'm pretty sure Biden had the same exact thing going on, so here we go. It says, when records from Biden's tenure as vice president were found in his garage and at the Penn Biden Center, the FBI played nice. Not only were none of Biden's residences raided, but the FBI let Biden's attorneys go through the documents first without agency supervision. A special counsel selected by Garland to investigate Biden declined to charge him because he was sympathetic. He was a sympathetic elderly man with a poor memory, whom it would be difficult to convince a jury had committed a crime that requires a mental state of willfulness. And if he's an elderly man with a poor memory, why did he give a pardon to Hunter for the last 10 years, considering I thought Hunter didn't do anything, and how did Joe Biden remember it? Like, suddenly his memory's okay. Continuing on. Ignoring a congressional subpoena, says when Robert Hur declined to prosecute Biden for his likely crimes involving classified documents, his reasoning, combined with Biden's public exhibition of dementia symptoms, increased concerns about the mental capacities of the man ostensibly running the country. Facing demands to release the audio tapes from Hur's interviews with Biden, Garland refused to make them public to the American people. Even when Congress issued a subpoena to Garland for the audio, he ignored it. Yeah, I think he's done that a few times with subpoenas. He's just kind of been like, whatever. And that itself is a problem. It says, while ignoring Trump officials for ignoring subpoenas, or imprisoning Trump officials for ignoring subpoenas. Yes, exactly. Double standard much. It says, meanwhile, the Garland DOJ successfully sought jail time for Trump officials Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon for refusing to answer congressional subpoenas. Announcing Bannon's indictment, Garland crowed that the charges reflected the department's steadfast commitment to the rule of law. When the House of Representatives voted to hold Garland in contempt of Congress for ignoring his subpoena, however, Garland's own Justice Department quickly said it would not prosecute Garland for contempt, as Axios reported at the time without a hint of irony. Yes, it's one of those, we investigated ourselves and determined that we didn't do anything wrong sort of things. It says, leaving fingerprints on Get Trump lawfare in New York and Georgia. Says Garland's DOJ wasn't the only entity trying to cash in on the fad of prosecuting Trump. When Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg prosecuted Trump for basically trying to shape public opinion about himself while he was campaigning for president, he somehow coaxed Matthew Colangelo to leave his cushy post as Garland's third-in-command to join the local prosecutor's team. Before that, someone had magically convinced Bragg to pursue the prosecution despite his previous decision not to see criminal charges against the former president. Likewise, members of Fulton County DA Fannie Willis' team prosecuting Trump in Georgia mysteriously met with Biden White House officials multiple times. Can you say collusion? It says fiddling with SCOTUS faced unlawful intimidation mobs. Or fiddling as SCOTUS faced unlawful intimidation mobs. I can read small words. It says after a draft of the Supreme Court's opinion overturning Roe v. Wade was leaked in May 2022, mobs of pro-abortion activists swarmed the homes of Republican-appointed justices who were expected to make up the majority. It was obvious their intention was to intimidate and pressure the justices into abandoning their draft in their final ruling, which is illegal under 18 U.S.C. 1507, if that's how you say that. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. As Garland's DOJ didn't lift a finger to stop the law-breaking for a month until a man went to Brett Kavanaugh's home with weapons and home invasion tools and told the police of his plans to kill the justice. Nearly a year later, a DOJ whistleblower revealed training slides instructing U.S. Marshals that making arrests and initiating prosecutions is not the goal of the USMS presence at SCOTUS residences. So, yeah. Again, this is one of those things where I'm like, dude, what if some right-wing person was to come to your house, Merrick Garland? And I'm saying do not do that, but I'm just saying just flip the situations around. Would he have been like, no, you guys shouldn't have to worry about protecting me? Or would you be like, we should do something about that? Of course you'd be like that. So it's prosecuting peaceful pro-life protesters. It says early in the morning of September 23rd, 2022, more than a dozen FBI agents carrying rifles swarmed the home of pro-life father of seven Mark. Is it Houck? So I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. It says Houck was accused of attacking a patient escort at a Planned Parenthood facility in violation of the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances, or FACE Act. Houck stated that he had physically blocked the man from harassing his 12-year-old son, and the man's attempt to sue Houck over the incident was thrown out of district court. Yeah, I think there's actually video of this that you can view, and it's like this dude came up to his son and started physically accosting him, and so Mark Houck came over and pushed the guy or something like that. I watched it a couple years ago, after this happened, and I'm like, what did this dude do that was wrong? He was protecting his kid from some deranged lunatic. Continuing on, it says, although a jury eventually acquitted Houck, the process was the punishment. In addition to Houck, the Garland DOJ has put dozens of other pro-life activists through prosecution, and some in prison, for peaceful demonstrations at abortion facilities. Meanwhile, the agency showed substantially less aggression in prosecuting the culprits who vandalized, firebombed, or otherwise intimidated more than 40 pro-life individuals and organizations. Yeah, where's all those people in jail? It says, targeting parents as domestic terrorists. It says, during Garland's first year in office, parents nationwide began exercising their rights to speak out at public school board meetings in protest of post-COVID school closures, mask mandates, and racial and sexual dogma in their children's schools. In a letter later alleged to be at the request of the Biden administration, the National School Boards Association asked Biden to crack down on the parents using domestic terrorism laws. Just days later, Garland happily complied, directing the FBI and U.S. attorneys to work with local law enforcement to go after these parents. So just going after regular parents who don't want their kids indoctrinated is apparently domestic terrorism, which it doesn't in any way, shape, or form fit the definition of that. And if I had the power to do it, this entire organization would be disbanded and just scattered to the wind. It was overseeing FBI targeting of Catholics. It says, as an agency within DOJ, the FBI is ultimately responsible to the Attorney General, so Garland bears blame for the many abuses of power perpetrated by the FBI during his tenure. One of those was the creation of a 2023 memo out of the FBI's Richmond field office painting radical traditionalist Catholics who attend Latin Mass as connected to racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists and white supremacist ideology. Now, I don't know anything about Catholicism. I am not Catholic. I am a Jew, and I don't, this just strikes me as how do you come to that conclusion based on that, on them going to Latin Mass? What am I missing here, if anything? And I don't think I'm missing anything. I think it's just them probably trying to make 2 + 2 equals potato, and they're just saying it's really 4 or something like that. It doesn't seem to work for me. It was later revealed that at least 2 other field offices were involved in or contributed to the creation of the FBI's assessment of traditional Catholics as potential domestic terrorists. Suing states to keep non-citizens on voter rolls. So shortly before the 2024 election, after the state of Virginia had removed 6,000 non-citizens from its voter rolls, Garland's DOJ sued Virginia to keep Governor Glenn Youngkin from continuing to remove foreign nationals who were ineligible to vote. The DOJ had previously brought a similar lawsuit against Alabama in September, and Garland promised in March to target popular state laws requiring voter ID. So like this, they're on the wrong side of this issue. They want non-citizens to vote. Ask yourselves why they want non-citizens to vote, and just be like, dude, you're the bad guy here. This is when Democrat county boards in Pennsylvania publicly decided to count legally disqualified ballots in November. However, Garland was nowhere to be seen. Yeah, so we have those folks on tape saying they're going to do exactly that, and they're just I said on tape, I'm a kid from the 80s, I apologize, but on video saying they're going to do that, and it was just he's just yeah, whatever, doesn't matter. Just kind of whistling while he's looking the other way, just nope, not going to do anything about that. So, continuing on, it says, covering for Biden family crimes, and here's something, pretty egregious, I would say. It says, documents and testimony from IRS whistleblowers revealed that the Justice Department had hampered a tax investigation into Hunter Biden. The interference began before Garland's tenure at DOJ, but under Garland, at least 2 Biden DOJ political appointees in U.S. attorneys' offices had declined to seek a tax indictment against Hunter Biden despite career investigators' recommendations to do so. Just the News reported based on whistleblower allegations in 2023. It says Garland promoted David Weiss, the U.S. attorney in Delaware who had been investigating Hunter Biden during the period in which IRS whistleblowers said the DOJ was stonewalling their investigation, to special counsel just a few months after the whistleblower allegations came to light. Before that, Garland told members of Congress that Weiss had possessed full authority in charging decisions related to Hunter Biden, a claim that whistleblowers said Weiss had flatly contradicted in meetings. His Weiss ended up arranging a sweetheart plea deal designed to let the younger Biden escape accountability for his crimes until it fell apart under a judge's scrutiny in court. The DOJ let the statute of limitations expire on a number of tax crimes and never charged Biden with more serious offenses in which he was implicated, such as money laundering or bribery. I wonder how much of this is going to come out now with Trump and all his people in there, if we're going to see all this stuff was really happening. It says targeting IRS whistleblowers who revealed the cover-up. This is when the allegations of DOJ interference on behalf of the Bidens became public in 2023. One of the whistleblowers and his entire team were removed from the Biden investigation at the request of the Department of Justice, according to the whistleblower's lawyer. Yeah, that's not shady at all. It says, twisting laws to make a political example out of J6 protesters. And this is the one that probably out of everything on here pisses me off the most. It says, under Garland, DOJ prosecutors led by D.C. U.S. Attorney Matthew Graves, who I think should be absolutely disbarred and never be allowed to practice law anywhere ever again, charged more than 1,500 people for their presence inside the U.S. Capitol building on January 6, 2021. As media outlets, congressional Democrats, and President Biden sought to make an example out of the pro-Trump protesters, the DOJ invoked laws never before used against political protesters, as investigative reporter Julie Kelly noted. If you don't know who Julie Kelly is, follow her work on this. She is like the most comprehensive person at following everything happening with this. So definitely make sure that you follow her to know what's going on with any of these folks. The sentences range from a few days in jail to up to 22 years as the DOJ seeks terror enhancements to tack on additional time, Kelly reported. So eager was the DOJ to punish these J6ers that prosecutors tried to use the 2002 Sarbanes-Oxley Act, written to crack down on financial fraud, to charge hundreds of people with obstruction of an official proceeding. The Supreme Court shot down this interpretation earlier this year, and that's the end of the article. But that was a long article, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's even more, but it seems like this is pretty comprehensive to give you an idea of just the stuff that this guy's let go. And again, be absolutely glad that he did not get on the Supreme Court and that he's going to be out of office from the time I'm recording this in about 5 weeks. So there you go. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, and I will talk to you soon.